Alright, quick news update for Solana. So, there's been some pretty bearish news coming out for the Solana ecosystem in the past 12 hours, particularly bearish for one quote-unquote decentralized protocol on top of the Solana network called Solend protocol. After this bearish news has been coming out, subsequently you can see Sol is now trending on Twitter in the past 24 hours. We're going to run through the news, talk about everything you need to know from this, so let's jump right into this. So, like I said, this is happening particularly not for Solana. This is happening for a decentralized protocol that lends and borrows Solana, which obviously is going to reflect poorly on Solana. Nonetheless, this isn't Solana's fault. That's not what I'm trying to say. This could have happened for any blockchain that was decentralized. This particular lending protocol is the centralized problem. So let's read into this. The Solana DeFi platform Solend votes to control a whale account in bid to avoid liquidation chaos. Solend users voted to grant emergency powers to Solend Labs to temporarily take over the whale's account. Now, this was voted 97.5% in favor, and this protocol here, or this government's proposal here, was SLND1, the first government's proposal for the Solend DAO. This was approved. Like I said, if we scroll over to their Twitter, you can see 1,155,000 votes were made, with 97.5% of the votes being a yes. Now, apparently their core team did not vote in this proposal. Did their seed round investors vote in this? Did, the whales vote in this? That's what I want to know. Nonetheless, this is very scumbag behavior, and this is particularly scummy because they describe themselves as an algorithmic decentralized protocol for lending and borrowing Solana. The key takeaway from that is decentralized, and they've voted to give themselves 100% centralized power. So I don't care if you went about giving yourself centralized powers in a decentralized manner. The point of the matter is, you've given yourself these centralized powers, and I'm no expert on exchange laws for regulations, but as far as I can tell, a decentralized lending protocol is subject to different regulation than a centralized exchange. And with this centralized power that the Solend protocol has given themselves, I would imagine this would be akin to a centralized exchange. I mean, what they've been doing here, if we read this, they've granted themselves emergency power, so Solend Labs can temporarily take over the whale's account, so the liquidation can be executed over the counter, OTC, and avoid pushing Solana to its limits. This would be done via a smart contract upgrade. Emergency powers will be revoked once the whale's account reaches a safe level. So basically, there was a whale who was shorting with a very, very large amount of leverage over on their exchange. Their centralized exchange now, as I'll call it. This would have been a decentralized exchange a couple of days ago, but with this protocol, I don't care if they revoke their emergency powers. They are now centralized, in my opinion. I believe the whale had a large amount. I believe it was 5.7 million Solana on Solend, or over 95% of the pool's deposits, which is absolutely insane. Against that, it had borrowed 108 million in stablecoins, far more than anyone else. If the liquidation price of $22.30 over on Solana got hit, it would be liable for around 20 million. Sol is currently trading at $32.27. They said, despite our efforts, we've been unable to get the whale to reduce their risk or even get in contact with them. And this is just completely insane. I mean, they're saying, we're trying to get in contact with this whale to get them to reduce their risk. I mean, this is a quote unquote decentralized lending protocol. They shouldn't be messaging them at all. They shouldn't care what they've been doing. Yes, I understand why they did it. They're doing it because if this wasn't OTC, and if you don't understand OTC, basically when you go on exchanges and you sell your cryptocurrencies, some of them are OTC, but not all of them are OTC. For example, if you just sell on Coinbase, a bunch of other centralized exchanges, it will move the price down. But if you're a big whale, people like Michael Saylor, they like to buy OTC, which is over the counter. That means, for example, if I wanted to sell you my Bitcoin, say for example, I've got a hardware wallet with 1 Bitcoin in. If I just say, hey, give me 30,000 in cash and I'll give you the hardware wallet, that's basically OTC. It doesn't affect the actual price because the Bitcoin is just moving from one hand to another without having that being, transferred or being sold over the general market. Now, this is basically why they've done it, because they didn't want a massive cascade of sells to start pushing down, because according to Solend Labs, you can go through their Twitter, they've explained in a bunch of tweets in response to other people that aren't really happy. They basically just said, if Solana did come down to these lower price targets, then it would trigger a large amount of liquidations that would cascade and subsequently push the price of Solana much further to the downside. Now, like I said, from moving from a decentralized protocol to a centralized exchange, you will need new regulations, which I do imagine probably will be coming for Solend protocol, considering they have now given themselves centralized powers. So I shared my thoughts on this over on Twitter. If you do want to follow me over on Twitter, be sure to head over to @618_cowboy. Let's get this to 1,000 followers. But anyway, short and sweet. Short Solend protocol, #SLND, which is their native token. This is centralized garbage in my opinion. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. We've run through everything that we need to know. The only other thing I would like to show you is the Solana price is bouncing today with other altcoins. Solana is up 16%. And like I said, I really do want to emphasize this. This is not Solana's fault. This could have happened to any cryptocurrency, like for example, Bitcoin, which is the most decentralized cryptocurrency in the entire world. There could be a Bitcoin-centered decentralized lending platform, and they could implement them. Centralized rules for themselves. That does not mean Bitcoin's not decentralized. It simply means the lending platform that is using Bitcoin is decentralized. And this is the exact same with Solana. I'm not saying that Solana is not centralized, because it is pretty highly centralized. I mean, if you look at the seed round investors, if you look at the team's holdings, if you look at the concentration of holdings, I am 100% not saying that Solana is not heavily centralized. But nonetheless, it is not as centralized as Solend has been. And subsequently, you can see Solend is bouncing, or Solana is bouncing with the altcoins up 16%, and Solend is down, 5.5% or so today. For the past month or so, a couple of months, it has been lollygagging to the downside. So, once again, this is, somewhat ambiguous as to whether this is dropping because of their protocol. But nonetheless, not many people talking about this over on Coin Market Cap as well. But if you do go look at their, look at their Twitter, click on some of their posts, people are really not happy with what is going on right now. And I completely understand why people are, unhappy with this, why people that may have their Solana on this protocol were trying to be getting out. I personally have never heard of this protocol up until today. I never had any Solana with them, but if I did, then I would be out. So this is centralized garbage. Solend, in my opinion, this is probably going to go to zero, or it's going to get highly regulated. It's going to cost a lot of money to get regulated, and then they'll slowly bleed out to zero. So nonetheless, this is absolute garbage this is garbage centralization at its finest, and I would definitely recommend to any of my friends, any of the Solana family that do watch my crypto YouTube, to stay away from these scummy lending protocols. That is all I've got for you today. As always, if you do want to follow me over on Twitter and get these updates, in time as soon as I see them, then be sure to head over to my profile at @618_cowboy. That is all I've got for you today. As always, Cowboy out. Peace.